History loves to tell us about men destined for greatness, but Julius Caesar, he wasn't one of them. He was born into a crumbling republic on the losing side of a civil war, with what was basically a death sentence hanging over his head before he'd even turned 20. Fate had a path for him, and it was a short one, ending in a forgotten grave. But Caesar refused to walk it. So this isn't a story about destiny, it's a story about choice. It's the story of how a man who was supposed to be a historical footnote chose to become a legend, and in doing so, rewrote the future of Rome. These are the moments where a man, staring ruin in the face, defied all expectations, rolled the dice, and single-handedly changed his fate. Caesar chose loyalty over safety, and by surviving he learned a critical lesson. Authority could be defied. Think street gangs brawling in the forums, politicians buying elections with borrowed cash, and ambitious generals turning their armies not on foreign enemies, but on Rome itself. It was an age of strongmen, and a young Gaius Julius Caesar found himself on the wrong side of the biggest one. His family, the Julii, were old-school patricians who claimed they were descended from the goddess Venus, but their political juice had mostly dried up. Even worse, his family had connections to the famous general Gaius Marius, who was the recently defeated enemy of Rome's new, terrifying master, Lucius Cornelius Sulla. After winning a brutal civil war, Sulla made himself dictator and started the proscriptions, a fancy word for a systematic murder list of his political opponents. Caesar, barely out of his teens at around 18, was a target just by association. Sulla gave the young man a simple, brutal choice: divorce your wife, Cornelia. She was the daughter of one of Sulla's major enemies, and divorcing her would prove Caesar's loyalty to the new boss. According to the historian Suetonius, as he made his choice, he uttered the famous words, "Alia iacta est." The die is cast. He gave the order and marched his army into history. But he was burning through money, racking up insane debts to fund his ambitions. By 61 BC, after a successful term as governor in Spain, he had military glory and some cash, but he was still locked out of the real centers of power. The Senate was run by a clique of conservative aristocrats, the Optimates, who saw Caesar's ambition as a major threat. When Caesar returned from Spain, he wanted two things: a triumph, the biggest military parade a general could get, and to run for consul, the highest office in the Republic. His enemy, Cato the Younger, and the Senate gave him an ultimatum. He could either wait outside the city for his triumph, or he could enter the city to run for consul. He couldn't have both. It was a trap designed to stall his career. A lesser man would have taken the parade. But Caesar, in his second great choice, did the unexpected. He gave up the once-in-a-lifetime honor, walked into Rome, and chose power over prestige. But he knew he couldn't break the Senate's grip alone. This led to his next and maybe his most consequential decision. He went to the two most powerful men in Rome, Pompey the Great, the top general, and Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man. These two guys hated each other, but they had a common enemy. The same senators who were blocking Caesar were also stonewalling them. Caesar saw his opening and brokered a secret, informal alliance that history now calls the First Triumvirate. It was basically a three-man political gang. Crassus brought the money, Pompey brought the military muscle, and Caesar brought the political nerve. To seal the deal, Caesar married his only daughter, Julia, to Pompey. It was a brilliant and totally unconstitutional power grab. As consul, backed by Crassus's cash and Pompey's legions, Caesar bypassed the Senate and forced through the laws they all needed. In his quest for greatness, he had effectively killed the very republic that created him. What followed was a masterclass in military genius as Caesar chased his enemies across the globe, finally defeating them and returning to Rome as its undisputed master. But the republic was now a republic in name only. The old system simply couldn't handle the power of one man like Caesar. He started collecting titles that shattered tradition: dictator for a year, then for 10 years, and finally, in 44 BC, dictator perpetuo. Dictator for life. He pushed through popular reforms, fixing the calendar, granting citizenship to provincials, and giving land to his soldiers. But the old aristocracy saw his golden chair in the Senate and his statues next to those of the gods not as honors, but as the signs of a king, a title Romans had hated for centuries. A group of senators, calling themselves the Liberators, decided the only way to save the Republic was to kill the man ruling it. Among them were men Caesar had pardoned, men he called friends like Marcus Junius Brutus. On the Ides of March 44 BC, they surrounded him in a meeting of the Senate and stabbed him to death. So, was Julius Caesar destined for greatness? Absolutely not. Destiny had him marked for an early death, for political failure, and for exile. At every critical moment, the world showed him a safe path, an expected path, a path that led straight to obscurity. And every single time he refused to take it, he chose defiance over safety, raw power over empty honors, and a risky alliance over certain failure. He gambled his life and the fate of a civilization on the roll of a die at a riverbank. His rise wasn't an accident, it was the product of his own audacious, calculated, and world-shattering decisions. He didn't wait for fate to make him a legend, he went out and took it. But what's your take? Was Caesar a visionary who saved Rome from its own corrupt system? Or a power-hungry tyrant who destroyed a republic for his own glory? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more tales from history. Thanks for watching.